Hello, we are live. I am Jamie Lee, the host, not the Fost. That's the Fost and the founder, the host and the founder combined. The host of this event. I'm excited to be here. It's kind of a small crowd this morning. We usually have more practitioners, but things have come up last minute, so we weren't able to do that. But we have the incredible blood detective Judy joining us here, and who knows stress better than you and I,
right? Exactly. We see it all the time.
Yes, we do. It is a constant in everything from in our clientele to even in our own daily lives. Like it is really something that I think that everybody on this planet really deals with is stress, and it's everybody's desire is to live more, right? I think that's really what we're all looking for in life in our day-to-day, why we chase that 9 to 5, why we do all the things that we do, right, is to be able to live more. So how important is this conversation?
It's super important. And I know everyone that I've talked to coming up to this conversation this morning has been like, how do I get rid of the stress? And about that tone of voice too, right? How do I do this? And we're like, we have this idea that we're going to work from 9 to 5 and then we're just going to relax, at 5:01 until 8:59 the next morning. And that's not how it works, unfortunately. So many of us pursue our play and our family with the same intensity that we pursue our work. And our bodies just store up that stress, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I think that that's the key that people really have to understand is that when the words that come out of our mouths, the lifestyle that we live, like your body doesn't really know, is this a lion chasing me, or is this just simply the adrenaline rush that this movie is giving me? Like it really does not know the difference. And so one of the things that I'm always working with my clients, and I'm sure you are too, when I'm working with my clients, I really focus on building a stress strategy. And I'll ask them and I'll say, so what is your stress strategy? And it'll be like, pop open a beer, like, it'll be something, or I like to drink a glass of wine, or, whatever that may be. It is, and they'll always tell me when I'm really stressed, it'll be this. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So let's be proactive instead of reactive in our stress strategy. And that is the key, is to really learn how to be emptying of that stress, regulating that stress instead of being reactive to that stress. So once we get to that point where we're so stressed that we need that alcohol, or we need that TV show, or the scrolling on internet, anything like that to de-stress, we're really not communicating de-stressing. We are still in survival mode. So how about you? How do you see it in your clientele, or even in your own personal life? I mean, I am not afraid to talk about my personal life when it comes to stress.
Right. Well, I think that anytime you have things in your life that you care passionately about, you want to do it with great intensity. And I find myself doing that with my clients, or researching their labs, or those sorts of things, that I want to do it with intensity, and I want to go after this with the ferociousness that it needs in order to track down what's really going on in their bodies. And yet, then oftentimes I can transfer that to myself, and I have to remember, like, okay, let's transition here, because it's not so much the stress, it's our adaptability when it comes to that stress, because we all have stressors in our lives, right? And I know one of the things I talk frequently about is our total stress load. Like you mentioned, it's not just the lion chasing us, or like I say, you're needing to flee a burning building. That is a stressor, but your body doesn't differentiate, like you were saying, between that the physical need to escape between the mental stress or the emotional stress that can often accompany relationships or performance, even at jobs or whatever, to even stresses that we don't think about as physiological stressors. Maybe it's been too long since you ate. Maybe you're too tired or your sleep was disrupted last night. Maybe your clothes are itchy. I mean, all of those things cause a physiological stress on your body, and we need to be able to adapt and respond. But too many times we're not responding to that stress and providing that relief, and we're not like going back to a calm state. And so we're just mounting stress upon stress upon stress until we feel like, as one of my clients says, we feel like that shaken soda bottle that we're just waiting for someone to take a little pressure off, but then we're going to explode. And so that's what we really want to say, because we want to reduce that stress load so that we can actually live more. We say live more, but we're talking about enjoying what we have, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that is the key, is to really evaluate. And it's always that inner reflection of like what's happening in here, but being mindful of what our body is carrying. I know my husband, he'll talk about like that he doesn't feel stressed, but then he's like realizing that his jaw hurts from while he's working, like clenching his jaw, right? And I'll feel stressed. Well, I'll notice my stress when one, my leg is shaking. Like if I'm like, my leg starts just bouncing, which I haven't done that in so long. But and then I'll notice too, I'll feel like I'm holding my breath. Like that's a
Mm.
big one, is that I won't be breathing properly. If I'm in a high stress environment or situation, I'll that's one of the first things that I'll notice, is that I almost have to tell my body how to breathe again.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but I've been through a lot of things in my life, and I've gone through the loss of a brother who is only 13, and my children's best friend. I've been through divorce. I've been through many life crises and life situations that has really turned my world upside down. And in those circumstances, stress can consume you,
Mhm.
and just the things that you just carry and bury, not knowing how to process them. But our body remembers all of it. Like it carries all of it. So our cortisol levels, everything. I know we talked about cortisol. We had a cortisol event last year that was so good, and all of the replays are the workshops for that are in our community. But um, that all takes its toll on our body, and in our day-to-day lives. So let's talk about really quick. So first of all, I just want to say that we do these roundtable discussions to really engage in conversation with the viewers. So if you have a question, drop it in the chat and we'll address it here live,
Mhm.
and just kind of talk about that. So for me, I'm a quantum healing practitioner. I take people through learning how to put their body into a healing state to reverse chronic conditions, anything from lupus, arthritis, uh, anything chronic that you've been dealing with. 9 times out of 10, it's an autoimmune disease. And I really help them put their body into a healing state. And I use practitioners like Judy to team up with, because it really does take that holistic view to go mind, body, and spirit, and to stay in our own zone of genius. And Judy, you have a beautiful zone of genius where you go through functional labs, and beyond that, you also are a health coach as well, and you take your clients through a program. So why don't you share with me, with the audience and the viewer, kind of like your areas of expertise, so that they kind of understand what kind of questions they can throw at us too in the chat.
Sure, sure. Um, like Jamie said, I am a functional blood chemistry analyst, which is a fancy way to say I'm a blood detective. And I love to go deep into those labs that you have, perhaps even the labs that your doctor said were normal or fine, that's normally what people get back. And they're like, okay, but why do I still feel like crud if everything is normal or fine? And I will tell you, there are answers in those labs. And we can see things in these labs. For example, stress. It definitely affects actually how the functionality of your organs is inside. It can even change the acidity of your blood. And so we want to look at those things to say, what can we do? So not only do I do that deep dive into the labs themselves, but also your history, maybe your lab history, your health history, your symptom history, as well as any medications. Oftentimes, medications can cause stress on our bodies or various organs. And so we want to like put it all together and paint that picture so that we know what's actually going on. Because when we know what's going on, we can create that path to healing and to supporting our body, because your body was designed with the ability to heal itself. Utterly,
Mhm.
completely fascinated with the design of the human body. And I know we share that, Jamie, because it's just incredible if we give our body the support that it needs, whether that's nutrition, lifestyle, environmental. Sometimes medications are appropriate. They should always be, you know, looked at as a short term support or band aid while you deal with the underlying issue. I like to say, if you have a gaping wound on your arm, you might need that band aid. But the goal is not to just have a band aid forever. The goal is actually to heal the wound so that you don't need the band aid anymore. And so that's what I like to do. And to say, okay, this is what's going on in your body. We can see this from your blood. And then what do we need to do? And I pull in my certification, my background as an integrative nutrition health coach to say, what are those foods that could support you? What are those nutrients? What are those lifestyle changes that could really help your body deal with these things? And it's just a phenomenal thing to then watch people heal as they're giving their
Mm.
bodies what they need.
Yeah, it's so rewarding, isn't it? I
It's
love
amazing.
doing you. And I'm sure you do as well. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I work closely with Judy as well. I
Mhm.
love to refer my clients over to her because it is so important. It's so powerful to be able to really understand, do the detective work and understand what the labs. I don't know how many people have gone and done their labs and have no idea what they mean. Like, oh,
Mhm.
everything's within normal range and have no idea, right? But you can find stress in those labs, right? You can find how stressed
Absolutely.
people are. One of the things too, that when I get really super, I wouldn't say I get stressed as much anymore. I've really learned how to create those stress strategies for myself. However, if I'm getting into a situation where it's leading up and I can feel it inching up into stress, one of the things is I'll eat faster and my
Mm.
digestion slows down, and it'll be just like a scarf it all down because I got work to do, and just scarfing it down. And then so I've literally made this rule, I talked about this before, of just slowing down, and I just eat with my family, and instead of going to my desk and eating at work, while I'm working and that type of thing. It's been a real, shifting point. But that's, again, when we find those things that we're starting to, do habitually, we got to backtrack and say, okay, this is obviously an indicator that I'm I'm exciting myself too much for whatever reason. Um, which, I wanted to talk about a little bit. Can you just share a season in your life when stress was just ruling your world and what helped you shift out of that pattern?
Yeah, I can even think back to 2 years ago when my husband and I were becoming empty nesters. Um, I have 4 children that were born within 5 years. And so I loved it. And people are like, are you nuts? Of course. But I loved it. My kids grew up together. They were best friends. They were playmates. The one thing I didn't anticipate was them all becoming adults at the same time. Like, y'all can't do that to me. But
A hard thing, isn't it? They do. It's like you give them all, and they're so great, and they're all together the whole life, and then they're all gone at once. You're like, wait a minute, I need you to wean
where
me
was
off of
my
you.
transition? Where was my transition? And so at the same time that we were empty nesting, that was like the end of December. So we had started January 1st as empty nesters. And then we thought, well, is now the time to do our dream, our next step? So we said yes. We listed our house on the market, our house of over 20 years, and where I had raised my children. We put it on the market. It sold very quickly. We were out within a couple of months and on a undeveloped property. So we moved into a camping trailer for 10 months. And as we were clearing the property and building the house, we're big DIYers. So we like to do these things ourselves. But it's just, there was a lot of change in our worlds. Everything kind of flipped. And there's that physiological stress and it was all exciting. So we didn't think of it as mental or emotional stress because it was exciting to us. And
Mhm.
yet, even those exciting things have you like fired up all the time. I can get fired up just thinking about it. And it's a
Yeah.
physiological stress on you. And you find yourselves, doing things like breathing more shallowly, eating faster so that you can get to the next thing real quick, or, not sleeping as deeply because you're just kind of on alert because you're excited with all the changes. And I know one thing that I find when I'm getting stressed, you were talking about like, hey, what are some of the things is my husband and I will often hold hands when we're in the car. And I'll just all of a sudden realize that, wait, my arm's like stiff. Why is my hand stiff? It's like, oh, well, let's
Mm,
just relax. Like, it's just kind of like this. I'm in a supposed comfortable situation, and yet I'm realizing that my body's actually tense or my shoulders are tense. And so I'm like, okay, relax. I purposefully have to tell myself, like, relax, release it, let the tension go. Because often
yeah.
we equate that mental emotional component of the stress with being
Mhm.
negative in these hardship situations. And sometimes it can really be an exciting time in your life that, maybe you're anticipating the birth of a baby or you just had a baby. And so there's the physiological stresses of labor and delivery and being postpartum and all the hormonal changes and being up during the night and nursing a wee one and all those sorts of things. But there's also the excitement level there that is keeping you keyed up and not letting you rest deeply. So when we look at various stages in our lives, we can see these things that aren't necessarily negative components of stress, but maybe they're positive components that are adding to that intensity. And so it's not that we want less of those. We just need to be resilient in our bodies such that we can calm back down, get excited when we need to, calm back down, flee the burning building when we need to, and calm back down. We can easily adapt and go back and forth.
Yeah, it's so important. And I love that you bring that up because, um, that even good emotional jarring can dysregulate our nervous system, right?
Mhm.
So even going through something that is exciting, like a move, like a big life change, I think that it's good to be aware that just simply changes in our routine can cause stress on our body, can cause stress on our emotional health and our mental health. And so I think it's so important to be aware of that because it's not like I'm trying to say, oh look, you've got even good things that you are going to cause you stress. It's really just understanding how the body responds and
Mhm.
how more important it is to focus on building that strategy, or having that system to kind of take the temperature of your stress levels and to know that you're doing on a functional level your body. There's so many things that are happening, when we are in that state. So what are some simple lifestyle or nutritional shifts that you've helped your clients with to lower those stress markers?
Um, we see stress markers in a wide variety of things, but one thing that can actually cause stress is something that we tend to go to for relief, and that is the junk food, the sugar, the extra caffeine, the extra alcohol, all those sorts of things can actually then stress our bodies, right? So if we think about caffeine, while I'm all for the cup of Joe in the morning, um, if we are having it later in the day, maybe it disrupts our sleep and then that continues to cause problems. But it actually changes the functionality of your liver. It can speed up the process in stage one or speed up the process in stage two. But normally, what it does is actually it lowers the speed in the other one, depending on how well you process caffeine. And so that changes how you're processing and eliminating the toxins in your body. If you think of alcohol, our liver regards that as a toxin. So if you're combining the two, if you're chugging the coffee in the morning and drinking the alcohol at night, you're causing problems with your liver. And so we can see that. And we want to say, like, hey, what do we need to do? Sugar, junk food, this is going to cause dysregulation in your blood sugar, for one thing, as well as your hormones. And so we can be like, okay, how can we make this steady? Because what we don't want to do is have those things that we go to for stress relief actually then cause physiological stress within our bodies. And so whole foods that your body recognizes and that can really give you solid nutrition are always going to be good strategies. Eat that orange, eat that clementine, eat that apple for something sweet instead of going for the cake or the candy or those sorts of things. And, really have some water, have some great teas. There's so many teas out there that can really be beneficial and calming to you in order to do it. So, really giving yourself those nutrients that you need and sunshine. Oh, sunshine.
Right.
Sunshine
Sunshine
is my happy place.
is mine. It's like, honey, I'm a little stressed. I think we need to go to the beach. If it's a 6.5 hour drive, it's okay. We just gotta go. It's time to go.
Well, we all think like, hey, I need a beach, and we feel so relaxed when we're at the beach or when we go camping or those sorts of things. I know there's camping people and then there's beach people, and they don't always go together. But if you think about it, what are you doing? You're sleeping, you're much more in tune with your circadian rhythm, going to bed when it's dark out, you're getting up when it's light out, you're eating during those times as well. But what else are you doing? You're really grounding and being in contact with nature, and you're
Yeah.
getting lots of natural light exposure. And all of those things together really work to calm your body.
Yeah, absolutely. We took our children to a trip to Hawaii last year or the year, I think it was a year before now. And we camped for like, what was it, 11 days, 12
Mm,
days. We camped on the beaches in Hawaii. And we're talking hardcore tent camping, like, hiking, that type of a thing. Um, and you're so right. Just, the way that it regulates them, it's like, just watching them start to get tired as the sun going down, and then waking up earlier. They were literally going to bed earlier and waking up earlier because of the circadian rhythm started to change, and so they were feeling it. And my husband and I wanted our children to experience this because we've gone and stayed in Hawaii for several weeks at a time, and we're like, you guys, we want you to have this. So it was just a beautiful experience of them. They were grounding all day long. They were running around in the sand, looking at sea turtles and stuff, and getting all of that sun. So it's so important. We think that it's vacation, and so that's the only time that we're allowed. It has to be this big event in order to go get that rest, but it's really not. Going outside on your lunch break and just putting
mhm.
your feet on the ground is so powerful, and feeling that sun. Just taking deep breaths outside, can really be grounding and regulating. So I think that, even though we have this idea of what we need to de-stress, we take those little bitty things that are so important and apply them to our day to day and build that stress strategy that way. Really start to implement, how can we release the things. One of the things that I talked to my clients about, I had one in particular that when I started to go unpack her day, I'm like, well, walk me through a day, right? Walk me through a
Mhm.
night of yours. And she's like, well, So I'm usually waking up with stress running through my veins because I forgot to do this and I have this thing today and I don't remember if I scheduled this. And so she's going through, that's what she wakes up to. And so she's checking her emails and then she hits the floor running, trying to get everything scheduled and making sure she didn't lose
Mm.
anything. And then by the end of the day, she is just wiped out, crashing, grabbing something to drink to chill out with, and and then heading to baseball games, whatever, and all of the sports things. So I said, okay, so this one simple technique literally lowered her blood pressure by to the
Mhm.
point where she's no longer on blood pressure medication. The one tip that I gave her is I said, this is what I want you to do every night before you go to bed, before you go to sleep. I want you to have a notepad next to your bed and I want you to just brain dump all of the things that you didn't do, that you forgot to do, everything that you want to do tomorrow, brain dump all of that stuff so that you know what your day tomorrow looks like. Okay. And I said, and then when you wake up in the morning, I want you to wake up at least a half an hour to an hour early and just go for a very slow, intentional walk. Just
Mhm.
breathe in. That alone, those two, that created the less stress. That was her stress strategy. She's like, I'm good. She's like, life is good. Like everything is in place now that I don't carry that. So what she was doing was just waking up to this, overwhelm and stress level and just piling on her day. And then, by the time the end of the day, it just set the tone. It set the intention for the entire day. And by the end of the day, she was just ready to check out, right? I mean, it's so different. And so that for me, with my clients, really analyzing your day. So maybe that is something that, you viewers need to look at. And I would suggest just write out your day, look at it and say, what is causing, like, just do that, reverse engineering of your day and understanding what could prepare you for a better day. Um, when I was growing up, I remember my mom, I came from a family of 9 children. And I was the second oldest. My mom homeschooled us all. And she had learned that she had to set herself up for success the next day. And so, success for the next day. So, she taught, and this was ingrained in me since I was a kid. What does a successful day tomorrow look like that we can prepare for today?
Mm.
And um, for me, it's having the dishes done. If I wake up and I know, like, from the time I open my eyes that there is a sink full of dirty dishes, it is just setting my day on a wrong tone. Like, I will know from the moment I open my eyes if my dishes are done or not. And that,
Yes.
you know, does set the tone for the day. And also, I think dressing for the day is also sets the tone. If
Mhm.
I refuse to put on my clothes that I'm comfortable in achieving things in, when it's usually like a pair of yoga pants and a t-shirt, comfortable things like that, but tennis shoes ready to go. Even if I'm just sitting at my desk all day, I am more calm in my rest of my to-do list because I feel prepared. I don't know if that makes sense, but psychologically it does for me.
It does. It does. And I don't know if everybody watching felt this way too, but when you were describing your client's day, like I'm sitting here, I'm tensing up, right? And then when you're like, oh, so you're gonna make this list, you're gonna know what's going on, and you're gonna go for a walk in the morning. And I'm like, oh, that sounds lovely. It
Yeah.
really is that, there's a reason why that happens. And when we are not, you know, doing that brain dump, when we've got all these unfinished things, our brain, specifically our prefrontal cortex, which is the decision maker in our brain, is holding all of these things in its short term memory. And it's like, I can't let her forget. 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 But it's keeping us from going into that deep, restful sleep. It's keeping us from being able to focus on anything else. And so when we write down those things, it's really telling the prefrontal cortex, I got this. It's on the list and I'll get to it. You don't have to keep it in your short term memory. I've got something else doing that job. And it really frees up your brain to focus on other things and be fully present with those other things. And I think that's part of it. When we are fully present, we are more relaxed because we can engage on just that one. But we've all been really deceived by this concept of multitasking, which is
Mhm.
nothing but stress overload, right? Because we can't really actually do and focus on more than one thing at a time. And so we're really only halfway doing things if we're trying to do two things at once. And so if we can be like, okay, set this aside for a moment, I'm coming back to it, then I can do this because we are otherwise just shifting gears back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And every time we shift, it's going to take us several minutes to get back into the other thing. And so we're actually losing productivity, which is what so many of us are afraid of. It's like, but I'm going to lose my productivity. So I'm stressed about that. When it's really like, hey, if we were to block off our time, yes, time blocking is great, but also block off our mental focus to say, right now I'm focusing on this, and then I'll focus on this. That then it'll really help reduce that stress. So I love the suggestion of doing a brain dump, then go back and look at it and be like, oh, these things I can do today, these are priority today. And these things like, am I really planning on, planting my tomatoes and squash? No, it's 40 degrees outside. It's just one of those things that's like in my mind. It's not even going to take place for over another month, but it's just still taking up space in my mind. And so we can look at it and be like, oh, I can have what I call planned procrastination. I can plan to put that off because it doesn't need to be done now, but it also doesn't need to be in my mental space right now. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
so tell me how, we're talking about creating space. How do you help your clients create that spaciousness in their daily lives when we feel so overwhelmed and pressured? What's something that you help them do so that they can create that space?
That's a great question. So, one, I believe to teach them how to feel their bodies, like really to feel what's going on. So when they have so many things that they've got to do, they've got that overwhelming task list, they've got the stressors of everything in life. Just really one hand on the chest, one hand on the sternum, taking those deep breaths in and in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8, or even box breathing 5 5 5, anything of that nature, of really just taking those moments when we breathe in and feel our body and then release what no longer serves us. Then from that point, your priorities really do get rearranged and you really do have the capacity to do all of the things. I get asked
Mm,
all the time, like, how are you a mom of 8 and have, 2 businesses and do all the homeschool and do all the things, right? Well,
mhm,
we all have 24 hours a day in our life. And it's where how we move through life is really how we are feeling in life. And
mhm.
so really tapping into those feelings and checking in with self. And so, and I also, one of the other things that I do for myself and I guide my clients to is go through the simple technique. And let's do it really quick, Judy, because I think you'll like this. This is one area that I love to do. So what I'll do is I'll take my clients through finding their ideal life, right? So if you
Mhm.
just be my little guinea pig, and I'm sure you've done this
Sure.
before, but let me just guide you through. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take a couple of deep breaths. Notice our body. Notice any pains, any anxiety that we're carrying. And we're just going to release everything and set it aside. We no longer need that in this moment. And I want you to just kind of tap into yourself. How are you feeling? What is your energy right now? Where's your heart? And just make room for that space inside of you. And now I want you to imagine, what does the best version of yourself look like? For Judy, she may be outside. What does she look like, Judy? You can go ahead and respond as I kind of guide you through this. So, what does the best version of yourself look like?
Strong, confident, effortlessly moving from one thing to the next, and really being present and enjoying what's there.
Beautiful. And when you visualize this person, and this is, the best version of yourself, right? When you look at her, what is she wearing?
Um, she's wearing jeans and a, a t-shirt. She's outside in the garden and just really being there, digging in the dirt.
And what does she smell like? I know that's a really weird question, but we're tapping into all of the sensory organs to really visualize this version of you.
Let's see, smell.
Does she smell like the sunshine? Does she smell like farm soil?
I think she smells like rich dirt. Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that fabulous? Now, if you were to stand in front of her, how far away is she?
Oh, she's close. I could reach out and touch her.
Yes. Yes. So this is the version that we put in our lives in the driver's seat of our lives. This is the person who's driving the car, making the decisions, and we are just a passenger. This is the version of ourselves that lives that life. She didn't paint a picture. Judy didn't paint a picture of this stressed out woman running around like crazy, right? These were not the important things in her life to get this task
Mhm.
list done. That best version of herself was enjoying the sunshine
Mhm.
and feeling joyful and what were some of the words you said? Powerful. I can't remember now what
Yeah,
your words you were
strong and present and
saying.
just really enjoying that moment.
Yes. So when we go through in quantum healing, our body responds when we visualize in that frontal cortex of our brain. When we start to visualize those things, then our body responds and we start to change. Just like when we imagine chewing a lemon, our our jaws start to lock up, right? Our body immediately responds to that. And so when we visualize every day that best version of ourselves, our body starts to embody that. So it's such a great practice, and that's one of the things that I do with my clients is really to help them connect with the best version of themselves so that they can embody that. But yeah, it was pretty fun, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and it's super relaxing too because you can kind of see these things and you want to be there. It's almost like you're already there. And so I love this because then you can take action in accordance with what your goals are, right? If you can see it, smell it, taste it, feel it, then you're right there and you can take actions accordingly.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I love going through the exercise. I go through it every morning in my before I sit down to do my work. What does the best version of myself look like today? So, what a great conversation. I love having chats with you, Judy, and thank you for joining us live today. Just one more quick shout out to our event coming up. Let's see if I can add this to the stage. So we've got the 19th of the month, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a fantastic event. We'll have practitioners lined up um, mainly through the noon, like from I think we have 10 a.m., 11, and 12 a.m. and 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So this is a great time for you guys to jump in and just learn these workshops, learn to come in and be live with these practitioners, ask them questions. They're going to take you through their area, their zone of genius, their modalities, and really help you to explore what is it that puts you in a state where you are stressing less and living more. So we're excited to have this event. Please join us. You're not going to want to miss it. In order to register, you can just go to our main website, which is join-ahs.org, and we'll be super excited to see you all there.
Yeah, looking
Thank you
forward
so much.
to it.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. All right, we're going to sign off now, everyone. Thanks for joining us.